Prine, artist, mostly a painter, but I do like to sculpt. And what I'm working on here is a monument that'll be eventually be placed in the front of the Veterans Museum here in Granbury. And just to kind of give you some background on what, or give you some information on what I'm doing, is on how I do it, and the approach is that I sculpt a whole figure like this boot. The piece being, when I get done, will be the the sign of a fallen soldier, when you have his combat boots, rifle sticking in the ground with a bayonet, and then on top of the rifle in a helmet. And that's the subject of the monument. This will be twice life-size. That explains the size of this boot. The original boot that I'm sculpting from right here is a size 12. So what I'm working on right here is probably a size 24, and doubled in size. And it'll be twice life size. That might be so, and that also means the rifle and the helmet and all that's twice life size. What I did first was from the real objects like the boots and the rifle and all that. Well, I take those and I sculpt out of styrofoam blocks, and kind of an inner sculpture or a armature, as you will, whereas used to, when we did sculpture, we'd have to build a metal armature and then generally wrap that in wire or whatever, a long process. And styrofoam's the best thing that ever happened to us. We get to sculpt this in a rough shape, minus the details. The details are not. It's kind of hard to get fine detail into styrofoam, but it gives us an inner skeleton or armature that, after we get that done, then we apply a thin layer of clay over the top. This is a soft clay that never goes hard. It's an oil-based clay, kind of like kids modeling clay. And basically the same thing. It's made up of, the clay is made up of potter's clay, beeswax, and oil mixed in a formula, and correct formula that gives you a clay. And I start off in little blocks like this. I roll them out into a thin layers with an old husband beater or rolling pin, and flatten it out. And then I put a thin layer of that over the top of my armature. Once I get that done, then I'll go back after this is done, and I'll sculpt in the fine detail. Like on this boot, for instance, I'll have all of the stitch lines and all the real fine detail. And to me, that's the fun part. Right now, it's just so much work. But once I get that detail in it, then it kind of turned over to the foundry, which I will go and help them do that too. But mostly the foundry does 90% of the work after that. And eventually this will be a bronze monument. But what they'll do is, after all my detail is done in this clay, they'll come and take a mold from this, and they'll first cover it in a latex rubber base is brushed all over this until it's built up, possibly half inch to an inch or so, to get this rubber coating over it that forms up to every little detail. Even if you left a fingerprint in it, it'll pick it up, every little detail. And so you have to pay a lot of attention to what you're doing and get it right, because your mistakes will be on the mold too. So you got to make sure you get everything correct before they do that. Once that rubber latex mold is applied, and it'll be applied in nut warmer sections that they'll put a divider so they can take this apart in 2 parts. And once that's all done, they'll cover it in a plaster shell that holds it all together in register. And then they'll remove that. Once it dries, they'll remove that mold and that shell. And after that, you're done with the original sculpture. You're done with it. It's most of the time after that, the original's destroyed, and which seems kind of sad after you work on it so long, and that all of it goes to the scrap pile after that. But once that mold, then they take that wax mold, or that rubber latex mold, and they'll put it back together. They'll attach a funnel shape to the top of that, and they'll pour in hot wax, molten wax, into it. And then they'll take it apart, and like in that fashion, they'll lift it apart, lift out this wax. What you'll wind up with is an exact wax copy of what we've done here. And then that wax is taken and dipped into a slurry. It's kind of similar to, looks similar to buttermilk. It's a real thick slurry, a ceramic slurry. And that's repeated several times until you get the shell, ceramic shell built up around, allowed to dry with every time you dip it, until you have about a 2-inch ceramic shell. And that ceramic shell also forms up to every little detail. And once that's done, that's removed, and then all of little burrs may occur, and seam marks and all that. And all that has to be tooled out. And once it is, well, again, a funnel shape is attached to the top of it. And they take that mold, they bury it in kind of a sand pit with only the funnel exposed. And that's when they pour in their molten bronze, and they cast it in bronze. That's left in the pit till it cools, which takes quite a while, mostly a full day for it to cool, or longer. And then it's dug out of the pit, and then they touch it up and tool it for all flaws and all that, and then it comes out kind of a brassy, shiny, brassy look, and it has to be colored. Well, using various chemicals will give you different colors, similar to that of maybe like if you're familiar with it, like you're bluing a rifle or browning a rifle. It'd be different color, different formulas, different chemicals give you different colors. And what we'll wind up with here is kind of a traditional dark brown bronze. That's generally what most people think of when they see a bronze in the park or whatever. That patina is added under heat and brushed on, and then when they get done, it's all polished. They polish it out, and then it's ready to put on a base, mounted on some sort of base. I think in this case, we haven't really decided what kind of base we'll put on it yet, but it's mounted on a base for display. And when we get done, I would assume that probably most bronzes are hollow anyway. They're heavy. They would be so heavy if they were cast solid that they would be really, really hard to handle. They're still plenty heavy, even though this would be a hollow cast. This piece will probably weigh upward to 3/4 of a ton when it's done and in place. And and then it's there for people to enjoy, and I kind of like the idea of it because, you know, there's not hardly. It was. I'm a vet myself, and I consider it a real honor to be chosen to do this piece, and also it's something to leave your legacy or your mark behind in a piece. It'll be sitting on display for eternity hopefully after I'm gone. And I don't know. I guess all of our egos need to be fed. And but most all artists would like to be remembered in some way, and I don't know of any other way that serves that purpose more than having a big bronze statue in a park that you've created. And in this case, the main thing though is to honor the fallen, and hopefully it will give some survivors of these fallen. It'll give them some relief in their grief, and what I told you about the process is basically in a nutshell. There's actually I was told once there's actually 147 steps to casting a bronze. And so obviously I left a lot of that out. So what I gave you was basically in a nutshell. Not real sure of the cost on this yet. What we'll have to do is once we get this covered and the sculpting done, then we'll go and have estimates on the cost of getting it done. I'm sculpting it down here in the museum here in Granbury, Veterans Museum, and pretty nice place to work on a piece like this, because you don't hurt for in this place you don't hurt for inspiration to do such a piece. And while I'm in progress on this, or while it's in progress, I'll be in here for a few weeks. And so if you have the time, or you're so inclined, will come down and visit me, and I'll be glad to answer any other questions that you have. And I don't care if you watch me. I have most of my artwork is done with kids and grandkids hanging over my shoulder anyway. So, and well, this will be a real pleasure to do. I'm enjoying working on it. So, anyhow, come see me.